Alright, today's tutorial I'm going to walk you through how to install the mod tools and basically troubleshoot some common issues with them and stuff like that. So before you do anything with the mod tools, make sure of course you have the game installed. In my case I have the Steam version, so yeah, it's installed as you can see here. Everything's all good and dandy. Um, Now, before you even go bothering with installing the mod tools, some things that I want to cover first is make sure that you have the proper .NET framework. Now, if you install this version 3.5, this won't, as you can see here, it includes 2 and 3, which is something you're going to need. Um, Now, this may already be installed on your computer, and I'll show you how to check to see if it's already in there somewhere and maybe just disabled um, before we get started with moving on. So, if you open your control panel and in Programs and Features, you'll see this Turn On and Off Windows Features. Click on this, and if you go in here, you'll see .NET Framework 3.5 includes .NET Framework 2.0 and 3.0, right? This may be unchecked if it is installed and it's just not being used by anything. Then all you do is just check this. It'll ask you, it'll tell you that it needs to apply the settings or whatever. You'll click, okay, that's fine, and then after it's done, okay, and that will fix that. Um, Another thing to check for is make sure you have the Visual C, as I was just talking about. So you'll go here and on Microsoft's website, Visual C 2005, Service Pack 1. Now, make sure you have both the x86 and x64 versions. Like I said, just Google search it. It'll show up on Microsoft's website and all that, so you can download it from there and install that. And you should be fine. We'll walk through some other issues you may have towards the end. So now, with all that out of the way, yours won't look like this because all the mod tools are already installed in my case. But you'll take your mod tools and then you'll drag in the mod tool stuff. So I'm going to open up where I have mine saved. Go in here, and I have mine already all assembled with all the different stuff needed. So then you would basically just copy this and paste it in here. If it asks you to overwrite any files, just say yes and just allow it to do that for all. And once it's done, then you're good to go. Now, before you do anything with the mod tools, restart the computer. So go restart, let it go through its restart cycle, and then afterwards you could come back in here and you're going to need to open up Launcher. Also, before you do that, make sure that you have set this properties. Make sure you've set this to run as administrator, and do the same thing for these other exes. So for 3D effects, for this COD Radiant, Asset Viewer, and Asset Manager, just to make sure that any privilege issues don't disable it from like reading the files it needs to like display assets or whatever, because that can also be an issue. So make sure you allow that. This is optional, but I would recommend setting it to be compatible with Vista or even XP. But that's optional, and in my experience it never really caused an issue. So yeah, just make sure you do that first. Then you're going to go in here and open this, and you're going to run converter. That's going to be the first thing you'll do after your restart. So like I said, make sure you run this as administrator first though. So if you don't want to change it permanently, which I would just recommend you do because it's annoying to do this every time, you could just right click and run as administrator. But we're not going to do that. Like I said, just set it to where it always runs under administrative privileges, and then you won't ever have to worry about that. When you double click it, it'll just say, oh, are you sure you want to do this? Yeah, okay, good to go. Run your converter, let it convert all your assets, and then you're pretty much ready to start messing around with it. So the first thing I would do after converter runs is open up Radiant and make sure that everything's working. Now this will look great like that for a couple seconds. It really depends, especially after a fresh install. It's going to be kind of slow at first, so it might take a couple minutes to open. Also depends on the speed of your computer. Um, but yeah, open this up, and you could always open up. There will be a tutorial map. I deleted it, so I don't have it. So I'm just going to open up my map as a demonstration, the one I've been using for YouTube tutorials. And yeah, as long as everything looks, you know, something like this, where all your assets are showing and it's not giving you no errors or anything, then you're good to go. And you can start doing stuff in it. Now, if you try to open up Asset Manager, for instance, I had an issue with this, and I actually had to fix that. We're going to walk through how to fix that in a second. But if you try and open this up and you get like either side-by-side configuration error, or it throws you some other kind of error and just refuses to open or crashes immediately, there's a couple things that could be the problem. One could be a corrupted file in the mod tools. The way you would fix that is to just go into your root folder of your Call of Duty World at War, delete everything, like literally everything, go into Steam, and then manage and uninstall, and then reinstall, and then try re-adding the mod tools in. And again, do the same steps I said before. You're going to have to restart your computer before you run Converter. You will have to do this every time you install them. But trust me, you know, if you don't, you're going to have more headaches than it's worth. So make sure you do that stuff. Okay? If you're still having issues, don't mess with anything in here. Chances are that that's not the problem. So then we're going to move over to programs and features. For side-by-side configuration error, chances are it has to do with your Visual C++ install. So the easiest way to fix that would be to just uninstall both versions and then reinstall them, because again, it could have installed corrupted for whatever reason, or it could just somehow could have managed to have gotten corrupted, or maybe overwritten by something else you installed that, you know, reinstalled this. So just uninstall it, both of them, the x86 and x64 versions, and then reinstall them, and that should fix it. And then when you open up Asset Manager, you should have no issues opening it up, and it should look like this when you open it. Same with Asset Viewer. You should be able to open Asset Viewer, and you should be able to go through these models, and you should be able to see them popping up nicely here on the screen. You know, there's some that just won't show up, so just you'll have to ignore that. Some of them just don't work. I think it's the files themselves or something are missing. But that's normal. So, you know, if you run into ones like that, don't worry about it. But yeah, as you can see, we can click through them, and they all show up just fine. So yeah, that's pretty much going to be it for the install process for the mod tools and troubleshooting any of the issues you may have. But like I said, it's very important to make sure that, one, you have the proper Visual C++ installed, and it's also very important to make sure that you have the .NET frameworks installed, because this game is older. It depends on this older version of the .NET framework. Like, if you have the newer stuff installed, this doesn't include these older ones. So, like, you know, for instance, Asset Manager won't work. It just won't work at all. It'll most likely give you an error and crash. Radiant, you know, objects may not show up in Radiant properly. So you may end up having some issues like that. But yeah, really, that's pretty much it for going through the mod tools. I'll see if I got enough space on my Google Drive to upload a copy of the mod tools so that then you could download them. I don't think I do, um, but I'll see if there's a way I could host them, and if I can host them, then link will be in the description. But this is the Treyarch official. There's no like UGX 1.06 patches that cause issues. So if you have an issue with that, like and you're using the UGX, variant where it has like UGX patch 1.06 or whatever, the best way to get help with that would probably be to go on UGX's forum and create an account and ask somebody there. But to be honest, I've had nothing but issues with the UGX, 1.06 patch and bullshit. Um, maybe it's user error, but to be honest, like I don't think I've done anything wrong. It's just as straightforward as installing the regular mod tools. You copy and paste the shit in there and it should just work. So chances are what's going on is, like I said, there's a dependency on a script that they have in there called UGX helper, and every time I try and launch my map using that variant of the mod tools installer with their patch in it, it always throws me an error telling me it can't find this fucking script, even though if I go into the directory where the script lives, I can see it right there with my own eyes. So I don't know if they have a call to something in that script somewhere else in one of the other scripts that is improperly called, or they didn't include it in a script somewhere. I'm not sure. I think it's probably an include. One of the scripts that is trying to make a call to it doesn't have an include to tell it where it is. But instead of trying to go through every script to figure out where they fucking missed putting an include, I just ain't even gonna bother. I'll just use Treyarch's official mod tools with no UGX patches. So that's the way I do it. If you want to use UGX's patches and have the headaches, go for it. But not for me. I would rather shit just work, and it just works when I use Treyarch's official stuff. The only UGX tool I use is the script placer, and that's pretty useful for initially setting up your maps. But yeah, that'll pretty much cover the bases for all the stuff you need to know about installing the mod tools and how you may need to go about troubleshooting them if you have any issues. If you have issues, comment. I'll try and help you, but a lot of this is going to depend on your own PC setup. Do you have the right Visual Cs installed? Do you have .NET installed? Is there like some other corrupted file in Windows, or is there a corrupted file in your mod tools? That's going to be more stuff you're going to have to try and troubleshoot on your own. I gave you pretty much, this pretty much gave you the full guide on what you could expect to look for problems. So, another thing you could do is maybe just Google it. Somebody else has probably had the problem and you could probably figure out a fix. But most likely it's going to be reinstall the game in the mod tools just to make sure there's no corrupted files. And, maybe reinstall your Visual Cs and make sure that you have the proper .NET frameworks. That's pretty much going to be what's going to solve all your problems. But yeah, that's really it. So hopefully this helps. If not, I'll try my best to help you, but there's no guarantees because again, everybody's computer, I mean, for the most part they're the same, but they also could be set up different. You could have different stuff installed on it that's causing conflicts. A bunch of things could be at play when it comes to these older softwares. So well, that's gonna do it, and hope this helps, and happy modding.